Screen.
Yep.
Go ahead and there we go. Can you see this okay? Is everything good?
Yep, looking great.
All right. So again, my name is Marcus Young. I am a senior cloud security engineer at Zapier. We are a cloud-heavy, especially Amazon, remote-first company. We've never had an office, and so we're really big on automation. And we'll get into it a little bit more later. But noise versus signal for us is really big. Hence the really long title for my talk. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you don't like GIFs or plain slideshows, I'm sorry, that's how it's going to be, because I really want to demo some stuff, so we're going to skirt through. So what is Cloud Custodian? I'm not going to go too heavy into this. You've got much better people to explain that. You've got Kapil and everybody else. Everybody has a what is Cloud Custodian slide. But just for those joining in, it's basically a rules engine that kind of abstracts you away from the APIs and SDKs that you have to know, right? So I just threw up a couple of examples that we use. So ECR in Amazon is their Docker repository. And we want to scan their images. And so, aside from setting up these processes that go and do it, we have this YAML file that just does that. If the configuration is set for scan on push as false, it'll set it. So it turns it to true. All is good. Anytime somebody creates it, whether it's through Terraform, CloudFormation, manually, we can guarantee that it's going to get scanning enabled, which is awesome. Another really common example is turning on EBS encryption. So EBS has encryption that you should turn on, in my opinion, especially if you're in cloud security. So what we do here with this YAML is it'll automatically turn it on. And what's cool is you don't need to know the APIs to do it. This makes it really easy for other people to kind of jump in. And not everybody has to be a cloud expert. You have to be a little bit involved with the APIs to kind of know what you're trying to do. But it breaks it down into something that anybody can really contribute to. And that's kind of where we head. So we're going to get on to alerting. So alerting for us is really important. Like I said, we're remote first, we're automation heavy, and noise versus signal for us is key. We use Slack a lot. So we have channels for pretty much everything. It's almost overload at times, but if there's a noisy channel, it's going to get ignored. Cloud Custodian fits in really nice here because it has a lot of alerting options, right? You can do email, you can do digests in email, you can do direct Slack integrations, SNS, which is big for us for a long time, SQS, and there's a ton. It's very pluggable. You can add whatever you want to add. So one of our big projects from the cloud security team at Zapier is giving everybody a little bit more leeway without undoing the security that we want them to have and know. So we've been moving into Amazon organizations. So we have this big monolithic account that's been there for forever, and we're trying to break that up into places that people are more safe to experiment with. We can set better rules. And then tagging kind of plays a different role now, right? If you have an account that's only for some team development, then you get a billing account for that. And it kind of breaks that down just a little bit more without having to add tags. So this is kind of the general look of what an organization looks like. You have a project or a team, you have marketing, you have these other groups, and they can have prod, staging, dev, sandbox, whatever you want to call it. And everybody kind of gets whatever they want. But we still, as a cloud security team, needs to know, can we manage it in a way that's unobtrusive? I don't want to get in people's way, but there are things that we've agreed on are best practices that can't be skipped. So for us in organizations, when it comes to alerting, is a lot of the classic integrations that you see, even for third-party integrations, a lot of it goes through SNS. And that's really cool because, it's PubSub. You can publish it. You can have multiple things subscribe to it, Lambdas, SQS, whatever. But one of these is Amazon's chatbot, which is really cool. Basically, in your account, you set up a chatbot with your integration. It goes to a channel. So you send to SNS, and it just automatically goes to a channel. You don't have to deploy a Lambda to do it anymore. But you can also subscribe that to Chime and some other places. So in the last while, I don't know the exact timeline, Cloud Custodian has added support for Security Hub. And I am a big fan of Security Hub. It's pretty new, but I really like it out of the box. It's got a well-defined schema. It's called ASFF. It's very well-defined. It's got integrations that you can plug in one of those Cloud Custodian. But with Security Hub, it's got this, what they call the master and the invitee model. So you can set it up on what's the main account. And it collects all of the Security Hub notifications from all of your other accounts. And that's key for us. So as we're creating these accounts, we don't want to have to, bootstrap it too much. We want security to be there right away. We don't want to have to bootstrap it because bootstrapping can fail. So when a new account comes up, we know that Security Hub is configured, same as guard duty and a few other things. And so we know that this one account can receive all of the Security Hub notifications. And that's kind of where I'm headed into today. So with this, Security Hub can send again to SNS, and which sends to chatbot and sends to Slack. That's how we kind of did it at the first pass. And this is kind of a breakdown of that organizations model, right? So you have your control tower master account, which is for us in HQ, we don't necessarily use control tower, but you have your main account. And then you have your audit account, which for us would be like a security account. And its job is to be the Security Hub master account. So as soon as any new account comes up, it's going to get an invite sent and accepted right away to Security Hub. So any accounts that generate Security Hub findings, whether they're native Security Hub or integration based, they're going to go to this main account. So I kind of want to go into where this falls down. Where this falls down is, if you look back at this previous slide, everything in the one chatbot goes to one channel. So you kind of get back into this bootstrapping problem, right? Like say a team wants alerts that are just for them. That doesn't quite work. Yeah, now you have to go into their account or the security account. You have to create a chatbot integration just for their channel. And send to that, and it's very configuration heavy. And that's kind of where it falls down. So I've got it kind of pulled up for how I have it originally. And so a lot of times what you have is this big, huge channel. I call it ops. And my personal one, you just see it's just garbage, right? There's just a ton of alerts. They're not really actionable. They tell you what it is, the name of the cloud custodian rule, but you got these account IDs, and it's not very well, it's not good to follow, right? Nobody's going to look at this channel and immediately know what to do with these. So that's where I'm going into with this. So there's got to be a better way, right? And that's kind of what we've been working on. So for this, I'm going to do a very small demonstration. There are some prereqs. You can't just jump right in, right? You need an organization that's set up properly. You do need to set up the Security Hub master and sub accounts so that, when they come up, they automatically send over there. And for organization supporting cloud custodian, you need to have a role deployed in every account that comes up. We do that with stack sets. So when a new account is created, stack sets, basically just a CloudFormation script runs for every account. So we can create this IAM role called cloud custodian, and it's the one that can do everything. And there's something that I kind of threw out about a week or two ago as a first pass, and I'm calling YOPS, which means to yell, which is kind of appropriate for this. But it's basically just a project on GitHub. It's public. Feel free to start it, look at it. But the idea of YOPS is that it's going to subscribe to every Security Hub notification. And so in the master account, we're going to have this Lambda deployed. We're using 2 regions, so we're going to have it deployed twice, which is easy to bootstrap, right? You don't have to do it everywhere. But it's going to fire from CloudWatch events, the bus, and it's going to fire on everything Security Hub. You can sublimit this. You can say if the integration name is Cloud Custodian, if you just want to limit it there. But for right now, we're just going to subscribe to all of them. And then there's a bunch of code, right? It's got tests, it's got all the good Python stuff. But at the end of this file, what it's really doing is this. So what it's actually doing is when it gets this notification, so it gets a message from Security Hub with the entire payload. And what it's actually going to do is it's going to take the finding that came in. It's going to look up the account ID for that. And we've actually forced all of our accounts to tag Slack channel and some other metadata. So when it does that, what it's actually doing is it's finding the Slack channel for that account. It's got a fallback method. You can do some other stuff with it right now. Feel free to add features, requests, everything else. But then it's going to parse it and it's going to send it to Slack. And that is kind of the key to what we're going to demonstrate. So to back up, held the wrong button. To back up, we're going to run Cloud Custodian in that security account also, right? Because it needs to have a central place. We're running it at Fargate. It's a very simple Docker file. Basically, we're going to take all the policy files, put them into a big one, and run the entry point. The entry point pulls down the organization file from the Cloud Custodian. It's going to generate this accounts.yaml, which is all of our accounts for a region, and then it's just going to run Cloud Custodian. That's all it does. It runs every 5 minutes. That's the CloudWatch rule. So every 5 minutes, it's going to crawl all the accounts and run the YAML against them. So here's an example of what we're going to run right now. So we have this. It's basically going to look for any accounts that don't have MFA set up on them. So let's just go ahead and do that. This is the account that we're going to create, right? So I have a module that's going to create an Amazon account. It's called Blue Team, and I want to send that to feed Blue Team. So when we create the account, this is going to be the tag. There's also going to be account name, which is like a little bit nicer when it comes in on the Slack message. But the key here is this Slack channel tag. So we're going to apply that, and while we're applying it, I want to jump over and show you what it looks like for this Lambda and this container. So like I said, we have Docker running in ECS Fargate for Cloud Custodian. So here it is. It's going to run every 5 minutes. So if you look here, tasks, it may be running right. It's running right now. It'll run again in 5 minutes. And then we also have that security hub configured to receive all of them, right? So we have all of these findings coming in from all of our accounts. They're going to send to that Lambda, which is the YOPS that I posted earlier. We have one. It's going to run. If you wanted to, you can see that it's running from the CloudWatch bus. And so now what we've done is we've tagged this, right? If we go back to here, we're going to look at our organizations. This is the main account. And so now if you look, I have an account called Blue Team with a tag feed Blue Team. Now, so what's going to happen now is instead of sending all of them to this, when the finding for this account shows up, it's going to find the tag that it wants to send to, which is no longer this ops channel. It's actually going to be this feed Blue Team channel. So once the next time it runs, it'll actually kick off and feed into that. So while we're waiting for that, I'll kind of back up a little. So the reason that this is really helpful for our teams, right, is that if we spin up an account for a team, we want two things. We want to make sure that it has the alerts so that they can act on them. We don't actually let Cloud Custodian do a lot of acting. That's just a choice that we've made because some teams use CDK, some use Terraform, and we don't want to auto remediate things that might get undone. We don't want to cause cloud formation drift. We don't want Terraform to kind of fight them when they're doing their own thing. We've kind of taken this hands-off approach, and we've said, we're going to tell you when things are broken. But we have also set up this thing, there it is, so that if it's at a certain severity in this YOPS, it'll also send it to us, to our SIM and to our own channel, right? So if we say, under no circumstances can you do this, and we have an alarm, they're going to get the notification here in their channel, but we're also going to get it in our ops channel so that we can follow up and just say, that alarm isn't really optional. What can we do to help you, right? We don't necessarily need them to be experts, but we want to help them become successful, right? And if we're generating alerts that they're acting on, we don't expect them to have to fix it. We just want to work with them. And then also what we can do is looking back on this, that slide where I have it set up to respond to all of them. We can also fork this into our SIM so that we can get these same, not only just Cloud Custodian, other integrations too, but all of the security hub notifications into our SIM. We can do, behavioral analysis and look for things that are getting undone. Maybe we have an alarm that's never fired and it started firing, and we know that it's not a new resource. Maybe that's bad, right? Maybe an actor is in there changing things. Maybe it was a mistake. But all of this is to really help us engage with the other teams so that we can help them kind of contribute back, right? We have YAML so that they can write their own rules. If they want to alarm on something, like say we have a production account for another team, they have their own production account, and they want to make sure that nobody's using their admin role, they can set up this YAML themselves to say, if somebody's assuming this role, I want you to send it to our channel, and we can also help them with that. So that's pretty much the end of it. I'm going to stop sharing for now so that it stops there. And that's pretty much the end of my demo. The links for that are posted on the slide. So there's the YOPS that I would love for anybody to contribute to if they want to, or if they have any ideas. Hopefully Amazon will roll something more native in the future. That's kind of my hoping. And I also run the Awesome Cloud Custodian, where I kind of list other people's projects and rules to kind of make it easy to find.
Trying to do that. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read off some questions for you. Let me get the stage here. Does anybody have any questions? Just catching up on chat. Sorry, I had a browser issue. restart my whole thing, so I'm just getting weird.
There was a question earlier about alerting and making it helpful, and this is kind of the talk that that would be the question that this entire talk would be over: is how do we make them, light enough for other people to look at without being noisy.
Just check both places. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any. All right. We have about 10 minutes for questions. If anybody wants, or is there a topic that you want me to ask you about or dive deeper in, or we could just take a quick bio break for everybody to get more caffeine and things like that. So why don't we just do that and we'll reconvene in about 9 minutes. Sound good? Jim says, great presentation, Mark. Yeah, really appreciate you coming and helping us support our first Governance as Code Day. And where can we find you over the next few months? That's your reinvent.
I don't have a whole lot coming up. I'm at KubeCon right now. Just kind of, if anybody finds me, feel free to chat about anything. I'm always up for talking about beer or hockey or cloud custodian. Either one of those is always fun.
We do have a couple more questions, George.
Where are you seeing these?
So in the Q&A tab, Liz added a couple.
There we go. Okay, I see.
Copy pasted from the chat. So I think I guess the question: have you noticed any significant change in how teams consider their own governance?
We've noticed a different level of thinking. So Zapier is kind of an older company. I say older, we're not brand new, but the security team came in a little bit late into that. So everybody kind of had these pre-established ideas of what freedom was and everything. And the first thing that we wanted to do is make sure that we didn't undo any of that, right? Everybody is as free as they've always been. We're not going to come in and start kicking at doors and locking people down. But there was a lot of feedback there when we came in right away of saying, like, how can we do these things that we want to do in a way that doesn't make people feel like, we're coming in and laying down hard rules. And so Cloud Custodian and a few other things that we're using kind of helped with that, in that teams never really felt like they were getting pushed on, that they had the ability to contribute. So as we built up this organizations, we've had a few teams that immediately said, we want to see these things. How can we do it? And we're like, well, actually, we have this Cloud Custodian thing that we've been playing with. And so we got them to feed in early. And this YOPS project was actually a side effect from about not even a month ago. So when I was asked to do this talk, I had just started talking to one of the other teams about how can we take this channel that's way too noisy and make it where we can actually, see it, because they had their own rules and they're like, it's really tedious to try to find out which ones we're looking for in this big channel. And so YOPS was actually mostly their idea of saying, what's a good way for us to see these things? And we kind of dug down. We're like, well, I guess if we wrote a Lambda that just subscribed to all these, we kind of get everything out of the box, and they kind of helped us with that. So more or less just a different level of thinking, right? They want to contribute because they want this visibility. Now that they have freedom, they feel more responsible for it because we're not laying down hard rules.
Excellent way to think about it. Let's see. Any other questions? All right. I guess we'll give everybody 5 minutes for a quick caffeine and bio break, and then we'll see everyone at 30 minutes past the hour for our next talk, which is comparing Cloud Custodian with 15 vendor tools. So we'll see everyone in a few minutes. Umair, anything you want to announcements? Thanks, Mark. Any other announcements?
Yeah. I would say if Akif is on, you want to join in, that would be great. And I wish we were with Mark at KubeCon, George.
Yeah, I think he went into like a hotel room to go do this, and now he's going to go back to the show floor. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you're on. I know the Q&A is a bit delayed at times. I don't know, Mark, if you want to come back.
Oh, he says he's in an Airbnb.
So there are a few questions for you, so we can answer. They actually are popping up.
So I'm seeing that our stage Q&A is where I should be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you can see, there are a few new ones now. So stage Q&A, right under the Brian one, it just came out a minute ago, so maybe there's a lag. So what does your remediation process look like? Is there any auto remediation in your process?
So for us, that's a really big topic that we've been kind of on the fence with for a long time. When it's ironic because when we were a mono account before we went to organizations, it was easy, right? Everything was gate kept. We use Kubernetes very heavily, so we use Gatekeeper to kind of, it's in dry run to report, right? But we have Gatekeeper so that we can kind of do these remediation at the Kubernetes level, which is important to talk about, right? Because Kubernetes can create cloud resources, it can create security groups and all this other stuff. But we're also very Terraform heavy in our mono account. So it was easy there, right? We can use Atlantis or Sentinel within Terraform Cloud or whatever it is. We kind of migrated between the two, but that was easy, right? We didn't necessarily auto remediate. We basically just put rules in place and said, if you want this to go in production, it's got to match these rules. And it was really easy. It had a good feedback loop. It was very clear. And it actually wasn't a big deal. This gets really hard in organizations, right? Because we're not taking that approach. We're not forcing teams to use Terraform. Terraform was kind of painful to some people. So they're using CDK. And we simply can't scale ourselves that much. The security team can't be in charge of all this. We can't, have these same rules in place for Terraform Cloud, for CDK, for, maybe they want to use some of the other, automation tools. But what we can do is put humans first, right? And just say, with these alerts, it's not that they're optional, they are mandatory, but what can we do to help you? So our auto remediation is mostly just looking for these important rules and kind of following up, team to team and just saying, these are in place. How can we help you in this situation get these remediated? Because those rules may be different in dev and staging. So I know I didn't quite answer your question. The answer would be that it's really hard, and our auto remediation is human-based, which isn't ideal, right? We're automation first, but it's the only way to make this both doable and not painful long term.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'll take a couple more questions, but will you be around in the platform so people can message you and chat with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, I'll be here for about another 30 minutes.
Okay, so there's a quick question. Has anyone tackled contention between infra as code, Terraform, and custodian changing its states? I don't know if that question, George, you want to take, or Kapil, you want to answer that on chat? So I'll skip to the next one. Maybe Kapil can answer that at a later stage. And there's one question, last question, I guess, regarding observability and identifying when these notifications get resolved. Do you guys have any insights on it, Mark? Do you have?
Not quite. That's one of the ones that we're kind of tackling now as we're building this up bigger. What we try to do is in a lot of our more important policies, we have, so cloud-custodian has this, where you can tag something and ignore it and untag it and all this other stuff. So we kind of use that in our favor. Is that a lot of times we create our own waiting periods so that it doesn't just fire every 5 minutes, because that's not helpful. But we'll have it fire, and then we'll have it basically set itself up to be a higher severity next time. And by becoming a higher severity, we want to send it to our SIM so that we can follow up with our incident team, right? And just say this has been going on for a week and it's only getting worse. So now we really need to follow up and see if we can resolve it.
Great. I think that's it, Mark. If you have more questions for Mark, it's pretty